Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Feldman, candidate for the U.S. House in North Carolina's 10th Congressional District. If you've been following my campaign, you may not recognize me because I think this is the first video I've made where I wasn't wearing one of my signature bow ties. I've got on my Mad Scientist shirt. This shirt fits me in so many ways. It was made for me, literally. It fits this video because I want to talk about the value of sending a nerdy intellectual to Congress. I'm enjoying the campaign because I'm learning a lot. I like learning. I'm a physician scientist. I care for patients and I do research. I like investigating. Here's something that caught my attention on the campaign trail. The leading candidate in this race has had on the homepage of his campaign website some distressing economic news. It said, the median household income in America fell for the third straight year to $74,580, despite record inflation. In 1930, the median household income was $4,887, which is nearly $90,000 today. Keep in mind, the Post went on, 53% of American households today are dual income. It wasn't that way in 1930. That information was linked to a campaign Twitter post that went on to say, so, if you feel like you're working twice as hard for half as much, you're on to something. Through endless spending for programs that don't work, the Democrats have turned their backs on the same middle class they came to champion. The disastrous policies of the Biden administration and the radical Democrats are crushing the middle class and must change. Okay, let's look at these numbers. Is it at all possible that American households were making more money in 1930 in the depths of the Great Depression than they do now? You know, that sounds kind of ridiculous on its face. Where did those 1930s data come from? I tracked it down. It comes from a report from the United States Treasury entitled Statistics of Income for 1930. You like these fancy graphics, huh? The report was compiled from income tax returns that year. Well, turns out in 1930, only a bit more than 10% Americans made enough money to have to file a tax return. So when you look a little closer at the data, you find that the average income of an American household today is about the same as the income of the richest 10% or so of households in 1930s. We're really doing well, at least compared to 1930. Income per person, after adjusting for inflation, is like more than five times higher now than it was in 1930. Today, it's like twice as high as it was under President Reagan in the 1980s. The other issue that concerned me about that post is how it blames the Democrats for a bad economic situation. Both Democratic and Republican administrations have been busting the federal budget with trillion-dollar deficits that are going to bankrupt this country. The federal debt is now over $100,000 per person, not per household, per person. I'm sure the leading candidate doesn't want to leave our children a bankrupt country. None of the candidates do. I'm sure they all want a balanced budget. The leading candidate in this district says, we need to cut wasteful spending. If wasteful spending was the problem, Democratic and Republican administrations would have fixed that long ago. Our government has basically been partying economically by putting vast deficits on the federal credit card. This has to stop. The changes may be painful in some ways, and Democrats and Republicans have been unwilling to even talk about, much less make, the unpopular changes that are necessary. Roughly 85 to 90% of the federal budget consists of entitlement programs, things like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, the defense budget, and interest on the debt. we could cut everything else completely and still have large deficits. Instead of cutting spending, though, the leading candidates for president have been jockeying to see who can promise bigger tax cuts, cuts that will balloon the deficit. If we don't cut spending, those tax cuts won't be cuts at all. Borrowing more to cover the deficit and the cost of these proposed tax cuts basically just push the taxes onto our children and our grandchildren. And printing more dollars is no answer either, because if we did that, we'd have this massive inflation problem. Maybe my thinking on this is colored by my Old Testament upbringing. The Bible tells the story of Joseph interpreting Pharaoh's dream. The moral of that story is that the government should be saving now in the good times, not deficit spending, because inevitably there's going to be a downturn and we need to be financially ready for it. To get the deficit under control, there are some straightforward things that have to be done that the major parties won't admit. We need to cut defense spending. We spend as much now as something like the next 9 biggest countries combined. If we would just cut our defense spending down to what Russia and China spend combined, it would still be an enormous amount spent on defense, but we'd make a huge dent in the deficit. We need to bring our troops home, defend our borders, and not support or commit violence in other countries. Doing so would both make us safer from aggression and make us safer financially. Healthcare costs are a huge component of federal spending, and we don't get much bang for our buck. We desperately need market-based solutions that give consumers of healthcare the incentive to choose healthcare wisely. Once we do, prices will drop for everyone, both for the insured and the uninsured, while quality will improve. This is a complex topic, and I talk more about this in the Healthcare Positions video on my campaign YouTube channel. We desperately need to keep Social Security solvent, which means we need to increase the eligibility age. Politicians who want to cut taxes and not touch Social Security are going to cause Social Security payments to automatically drop in a big way when the system becomes insolvent. When Social Security was created, most people didn't live much past the Social Security eligibility age. Now, thank goodness, we live longer, healthier lives, but Social Security policies weren't designed to handle that. There used to be scores of workers for each Social Security recipient. Now there's like 3 contributing for each recipient. That can't last. Not only do we need to gradually raise the eligibility age for healthy workers, but people like me who are financially well off and who don't need Social Security probably shouldn't get it, so it can be available for the people who truly need it. All right, we need to promote civility in our politics. The bitterness and incivility prevents people from working together on these critical issues. I can understand how some people are passionate about specific issues and feel the need to fight about them, but we desperately need to work together and solve our government's fiscal problems first. We need serious and honest leaders who will put the country before party, not folks claiming we can fix the nation's financial troubles just by eliminating waste. Here's the hard part where you come in. The voters need to take some responsibility for the government we have. We chose them. Now, it may be a good time to elect a few independently minded, friendly, nerdy folks, like me, who can look at the numbers and give a completely honest appraisal of where we need to go and what we need to do to get there.